Hi, I'm Tushar. I'm one of the co-founders of Ecomeric. Healthcare has more emissions than aviation, shipping, or the automotive sector. And there are two ways to calculate emissions. One is the cost-based approach, which is like multiplying the cost of the product with an emission factor to get the total emissions. But this does not work for hospitals. The reason is that the healthcare costs have been steadily been increasing over time. And that would mean that there is an increase in emissions over time. Even the inflation would show an increase in emissions. So what they look for is something called life cycle assessment, which is like covering the entire journey of the product or service. So starting from raw materials to manufacturing to the use phase and even the end of life of the product. So is it incinerated or sent to a landfill or recycled? And so what we have developed is a product where like you can start calculating the life cycle assessments and visualize it in a much better way, which can be used by either clinicians, sustainability managers, or even like program managers who are looking at like a sustainability reduction in the hospital. So in the dashboard we have constructed is like we have connected product with a process. By process, I mean a clinical pathway, which is another way of saying the treatment that the patient undergoes. So for example, if we have to look at the gastrointestinal endoscopy, then we are looking at what products there have been used inside that clinical pathway, what are their respective emissions, and then looking at like inside that clinical pathway, how much was it from the equipment, device, or from a procedure. So in this product, what we have done is we have connected the process with the product. So for like if you wanted to go deeper into the relationships between the process and the products, you can do that, and you can find out the emissions at a very, very micro level. But in order to get this data that you're seeing here, there is a process called life cycle assessment that the analysts have to do, which takes about 6 to 8 months. And the reason one life cycle assessment takes so much time is basically because you start with bill of materials. So for example, in this case, we have polyvinyl acetate as one of the additives inside a material for one part of the product of the entire product. So you start with bill of materials, then you look at like how the product was manufactured, like what sort of the energy was being used, what sort of materials was used, and what was the manufacturing process. And once you analyze the entire data around the manufacturing process of a single product, then you end up building something called life cycle inventory, which is all about what is the energy input at each step of starting from raw material to the end of life of the product. We have made this super simple for people to start using it through a AI-based LCA. And the way it works is that you can ask it a question. For example, I ask the question, what is the manufacturing process of polyvinyl acetate? Then it gives you the entire information and also gives you the source. So each information is verified and it's been attached to a source that you can always refer and see how accurate the information is. The other part is like once you have understood the manufacturing process is like you would end up creating a life cycle inventory, which is like, for example, you're looking at like a simple case of protective cap, which is made of polyethylene. And what I want to find out is like what is the energy input of polyethylene using injection molding. And the way it's doing is like it also accesses our internal database as well as the web to find out the information of how much the energy is being used in the injection molding. And then it automatically adds that inside the table for you to keep on creating the life cycle inventory for the product. So what we are trying to achieve with this product is that you should be able to do life cycle inventory within like 3 to 4 hours rather than say 5 to 6 months that it generally requires to help you achieve the scale that is needed to do hundreds of LCAs inside the hospitals.